She joked that her ex could sweep her away on our wedding day. So I invited him, exposed her fantasy at the altar, and walked away while her perfect world crumbled. My name is Ethan. I am 35, and until recently, I was engaged to Megan, who was 29. We had been together for 3 years, engaged for 1, and on the surface, it looked like we had everything a couple could dream of. I had a solid career, I owned a beautiful home, and I believed I was giving her the kind of stable, comfortable life she always said she wanted. But behind that illusion, there was a constant shadow that never truly went away. That shadow's name was Kyle, her ex-boyfriend. From the beginning, he was always there, not physically, but in her words, in the way she remembered him, and in the comparisons she would casually make. Kyle loved this song, she would say. Or, Kyle and I used to come here all the time. I am not a jealous man, but I am not blind either. I could see that she wasn't over him, no matter how much she tried to pretend otherwise. When I brought it up to her, she would laugh, call me paranoid, and insist that whatever they had was ancient history. But her eyes always told a different story, one that her words could never hide. About 6 months before the wedding, I finally sat her down and told her plainly that her constant mentions of Kyle were disrespectful and hurtful. I made it clear that if she wasn't fully committed to a future with me, then we needed to end things right there. She put on a dramatic show, cried a few tears, and swore that I was the only man she wanted. She promised that she would stop talking about him and cut him out of our lives completely. And for a little while, she actually did. I allowed myself to believe that we had moved past it. But deep down, I knew better. I just didn't want to face the truth yet. Fast forward to our wedding day. The venue was a stunning old country estate we had rented for the weekend. The ceremony was set to take place in less than an hour, and I was dressed in my tuxedo, trying to calm my nerves while feeling both excited and restless. As I walked down the hallway toward my best man, I passed by the bridal suite where Megan was getting ready with her bridesmaids. The door was left slightly open, just enough for me to hear their laughter. Her best friend Sarah asked lightly, "You seem so calm. Aren't you nervous at all?" And that's when I heard Megan's voice, giddy and lighthearted. "Please, the only thing that would make me nervous is if Kyle showed up here." The room filled with giggles. And then Megan spoke the words that changed everything. She said, "Can you even imagine? Like, what if he just busted in right before I said I do and took me away like in the movies? That would be so romantic." The giggling continued until Sarah teased her, "Oh my God, you'd totally leave with him, wouldn't you?" And then came Megan's response. A dreamy sigh, a soft, in a heartbeat. In that moment, I stood frozen in the hallway. The entire world around me fell silent. It wasn't just a joke. It wasn't just some harmless banter. It was the purest, most honest glimpse into her heart. On the very day she was supposed to commit her life to me, she was fantasizing about another man barging in and taking her away. The pain hit me like a flash of fire, but within seconds, that pain turned into something else. A cold, calm clarity. This wasn't a shock. This was confirmation of everything my gut had been screaming at me for a year. I didn't storm in. I didn't cause a scene. I simply turned around and walked back to my suite. And in that quiet walk back, I already knew exactly what I had to do. Megan wanted a movie. Fine, I was about to give her a movie she would never forget. When I returned to my suite, my best man, who also happened to be my brother Liam, was waiting for me. He took one look at my face and knew something was very wrong. "What's going on?" he asked quietly. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I shook my head slowly and replied, "Worse. I just heard the truth." I then told him word for word what I had overheard outside the bridal suite. Liam's jaw tightened with every sentence. He had never liked Megan. He had always said something about her felt fake, and now he had been proven right. When I finished, he just looked at me and asked the obvious question. "So, what are you going to do? Are you calling it off?" I looked him dead in the eye and said calmly, "Oh, I'm calling it off. But not quietly. She wants a movie, so I'm going to give her the blockbuster of a lifetime. I just need a favor. I need Kyle's number." Liam, being resourceful, made a few quick calls, and within minutes, he had it. My plan was already taking shape. Months earlier, I had bought a cheap burner phone for emergencies, and this was the moment it was made for. I typed out a message carefully, pretending to be Sarah, her bridesmaid. The text read, "Kyle, this is Sarah. Megan is falling apart in the bridal suite. She's crying and saying she can't go through with the wedding. She keeps saying she belongs with you. If you ever loved her, you need to come now, before she makes the biggest mistake of her life. The ceremony starts soon. Don't reply. Just come." For good measure, I added one more line. "She's wearing the locket you gave her. She said she couldn't take it off." It was a lie, but a clever one. He had given her a locket years ago, one she used to wear constantly and still kept in her jewelry box. I hit send, silenced the burner phone, and slipped it into my pocket. When Liam asked what was next, I straightened my tea and smiled coldly. Now we get married." The next hour was surreal. I played my part perfectly. I took photos with my groomsmen. I chatted with family, and I smiled like a groom filled with joy. But inside, I was waiting for the scene to unfold exactly as I had scripted it. Soon enough, the ceremony began. Guests were seated in the beautiful garden. The music started, and everyone watched as the procession moved down the aisle. Then came Megan, looking radiant in her wedding dress, smiling like she was walking into a fairy tale. She took my hand, her face glowing with happiness, as if the words she had spoken an hour ago had never left her lips. But just as the officiant opened his book to begin, a stir began at the back of the garden. A man was striding up the aisle, looking both determined and nervous. It was Kyle, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, completely out of place among the formal attire. The guests gasped. Megan's face turned pale, and yet for a split second, I saw it. A spark of excitement in her eyes. Her fantasy was coming true. Kyle stopped at the altar, his voice shaky but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Megan, Sarah texted me. She said you needed me. That you were waiting for me." The garden fell silent. Megan just stood there, frozen between horror and hope. Her father looked like he might explode. Her mother was about to scream, and the guests were holding their breath. That's when I took the microphone from the officiant and spoke clearly, my voice booming through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. I can explain everything." I turned to Kyle with a small nod. "Thank you for coming, Kyle. Your timing couldn't be more perfect. You see, about an hour ago, my lovely fiancée told her bridesmaids that her ultimate fantasy was for you to walk into this wedding and carry her away, just like in a movie. I overheard it myself. And because I'm a romantic man who believes in making dreams come true, I made sure you got the message. You're welcome." Gasps spread through the crowd as I looked directly at Megan. Her face was drained of color, her eyes wide with shock, as she realized that everyone now knew the truth. I then turned to Kyle and gestured toward her. "She's all yours, buddy. Her fantasy is now your reality. Good luck with that." Finally, I faced the guests once more. "I'm sorry to inform you that there won't be a wedding today. But the good news is everything has already been paid for. The band, the bar, the food. So I invite you all to celebrate my escape from a lifetime of lies. Let's party." I dropped the microphone, walked to the bar, and ordered a double whiskey while Megan's world crumbled right before her eyes. The scene after my announcement was nothing short of chaos. Megan stood frozen at the altar, her perfect bride image shattered in front of everyone she knew. Kyle looked like a fool, realizing too late that he had just walked into a trap he couldn't escape. Megan's father was screaming at him to leave, her mother was crying hysterically, and the bridesmaids looked like they wanted to disappear into the ground. Meanwhile, I sat at the bar, calmly sipping my whiskey, watching the movie unfold exactly as I had written it. For the first time in a long time I felt free. The guests were shocked at first, but slowly the mood shifted. My family, my friends, and even some of the mutual guests began to clap and cheer. People walked over to me, shook my hand, and told me it was the most legendary thing they had ever witnessed. Soon, the band started playing upbeat songs, the bar was crowded, and what was supposed to be a wedding turned into the best party of my life. Megan, on the other hand, was led away by her bridesmaids and parents, her dream day exploding into a nightmare she could never undo. The days that followed were just as dramatic. My phone was flooded with messages. Megan begging me to forgive her, then accusing me of humiliating her, then threatening me with lawsuits. Her father even tried to scare me with legal action, but my lawyer shut him down with a simple letter. It explained that their contribution to the wedding was a gift, and that Megan owed me for half of the non-refundable costs. If they wanted a court battle, I would happily subpoena the bridesmaids to testify about what I had overheard. That threat was enough to end it immediately. Her family went silent after that. Socially, Megan's reputation was destroyed. The story spread like wildfire. People whispered about her everywhere, calling her the bride who got what she secretly wanted and paid the price for it. Even Kyle faced his own disaster. His girlfriend found out and publicly dumped him, leaving him humiliated and alone. Megan tried to save face, but she couldn't. She lost friends, her social circle collapsed, and eventually, she had to move back in with her parents. From what I heard, she now works a regular retail job, far from the glamorous life she thought she deserved. About a week after the wedding, she showed up at my house. I was outside doing yard work when she pulled up, looking broken and exhausted. She begged to talk, her voice cracking, her eyes red from crying. She said it was all a joke, a silly fantasy, and that she still loved me. But I stared at her coldly and told her the truth. It meant everything, Megan. On the day you were supposed to marry me, you were dreaming about someone else. Our relationship was a lie. She tried to argue, tried to shift the blame onto me for embarrassing her in public. But I didn't flinch. I told her I had simply given her the movie ending she always wanted. And if she didn't like the ending, that wasn't my problem. With that, I turned back to my garden and told her to leave. That was the last time we ever spoke. Months passed, and eventually, the divorce was finalized without a fight. Her parents even quietly sent me a check covering part of the costs, almost like their way of admitting their daughter was wrong. Megan's life continued to spiral downhill, while mine began to heal. I sold the house that carried too many memories, bought a smaller place just for myself, and learned to see that the money I lost wasn't really a loss at all. It was the price I paid for my freedom, the most expensive, yet the most valuable lesson of my life. Today, I am dating again. I am with someone kind, genuine, and real. Someone who loves me for who I am, not for a fantasy. She doesn't compare me to anyone, doesn't joke about leaving me for someone else, and doesn't treat our relationship like a movie script. For the first time, I feel peace. The ultimate revenge wasn't the public spectacle I created. It was walking away completely and living a better life without her. Megan got the movie she always wanted, but like in the films where choices have consequences, she didn't get the happy ending she dreamed of. I, on the other hand, finally did. Like and subscribe if you enjoy stories where karma plays out perfectly.